to the podcast, everyone. I'm back with an incredible human to have a real conversation about purpose and walking the talk and creating ripples of hopefully betterment for this wild world we're living in. So I'm here with the incredible Imani Mitchell. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And as I welcome them into this space, I want to share a little bit about kind of the framework of how you're arriving and who you are, and then we'll get into it. Sound good? Okay.
Sounds good.
So Amani is a informal educator and youth advocate who's passionate about serving future leaders and their families. They've been fulfilled most in spaces that center education, community engagement, and service. Whether supporting youth directly or contributing to broader organizational goals, they're committing to work that creates meaningful, lasting impact. So basically, just like changing the world and stuff.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. So I would love for you to share a little bit about NCCJ, this incredible organization that you work with that I have a history with that I'll share later. But tell the people who don't know what they don't know about this amazing organization.
Absolutely. So, NCCJ, we are a human relations used to be the buzzword. We can speak plainly. We're a social justice nonprofit. We have
Yes.
been around for years. Originally, we started with an interfaith focus. So, we were the National Conference for Christian and Jews. Back around 2016, 2017, we changed our name and separated from the national chapter. So we are our own entity, and we are now North Carolina for Community and Justice. We still have a youth focus. Youth are at the heart of what we do. But around 2020, when the pandemic happened, when we were seeing an uptick in police brutality, a lot of folks were reaching out to us wanting programming for adults. So we pivoted and we now offer workplace and DEI programming for adults as well. Our flagship program, which Megan, you have experience with, is AnyTown. That is what we are known for. It is a week-long summer leadership program for high school students. We take the students up to Blowing Rock and we engage them in programming all throughout the week. It is also fun and we do campy stuff like we sing songs and make s'mores and have a dance party, but we're also having real conversations talking about racism, talking about the patriarchy, talking about systemic oppression, all the things that affect the lives of our teens that we don't often talk about in schools.
Just yes. Just yes. I mean, I I have such a special place in my heart for this organization and the essence of it. As we had a preliminary conversation because I was just really hoping Amani would want to be on the podcast. So we had a we had a call, I guess about a month or so ago to see if it was a fit and if you had space in your world. And just knowing that this organization is surviving this moment in history and still doing the work that is so just I think needed is too light of a word. It's just essential to be having these conversations and help people build these real skills to relate and connect in meaningful ways. And when we first hopped on the call, I was like, Amani, are y'all okay? Like, are y'all okay? Are you shuttering the doors? Like, what's happening? And so the fact that you all are, you said you're largely self-funded, is that right? Or
Yes,
donations, or I don't know,
yes.
however it works.
Yes, we are largely grant funded.
Okay.
We only have one grant that is a federal grant.
Yeah.
And that project had now there was a moment where we thought it was terminated. It is not. It is not. It is still up and running, and we are expected to extend it for another year.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It made my heart so happy to know that it was still going and
Yes.
evolving. And so I want to share a little bit about my background and then I want to talk more about Anytown because
Yeah.
truly it is just such a love. So I realize now it was over 30 years ago that I was at Camp AnyTown. And it was, I talked with my mom about it recently. I was like, you're never going to believe it. I'm talking to somebody from NCCJ on the podcast. It's going to be so great. And she was a middle school counselor who also had a side business in diversity training, because that's what it used to be called. And she told me, you're going to Camp AnyTown. And I was like, I'm an introvert. I don't like, no new friends. That sounds rough. I don't know anybody who's going to go. But I learned to follow even with discomfort where I knew it was right. Because I could have dug my heels in, but I was like, okay. And I had to do a whole interview to make sure I was a fit. I think part of it was because I was young. So it was the summer before high school. And I went and I was awkward. I didn't know what to say in an interview at whatever it was, 14. But that week was so fundamental in my path because it just affirmed a lot of what I wanted to have big talk. I wanted to understand the world. I was already a spiritual seeker in all the ways. And so spending a week with people who were intentionally from different backgrounds, having different experiences. And it was the first time I experienced, well, I guess it's the first and only time I can say, a simulated experience of unearned privilege.
Mhm.
And I remember there was a really powerful activity. It's the thing that's most in my head where we were walking through this kind of room setup of, you know, some people got it and some people didn't, and some people were suffering and some people weren't. And just the ability to, even though it wasn't my experience as soon as I went home, right? But to feel that. And I think I was on the privileged side, if I'm not mistaken. So it was just that, like watching people in real time
Yeah.
not have what they needed to, like, it was so important. And I think having that long before all these kind of more public conversations were happening about this helped me metabolize that over these decades and helped me just, it was very obvious to me from that point, looking at the world. Like there was no question whether that was a thing. It was a thing. Um, and I went back as a camp counselor, of course, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is the world I want to live in. This, where people are being, I mean, a true diverse conversation and honest conversation. And I mean, go figure, I became a therapist. I'm having all these hard, real conversations and coaching and all the things. That was my path. But I just love that that's still happening. And I'm curious because it's been so long for me and my memory is whatever, a middle-aged woman's brain. Um, what is it about Camp Anytown that you think is most impactful? I'm sure it's evolved over the years. I'm quite sure. But what is it that you see as just the greatest magic and impact of it?
Yeah, of course, I'm biased. I really think it is all the intention that is put into making any town a diverse and inclusive space. Nothing that happens on the mountain is by accident.
Yeah.
We plan it to a T, even down to who was in your cabin, who was in your discussion group. We try to ensure that students are in a room with someone that they may not have shared space with, someone whose faith differs from them, someone whose socioeconomic background is differing from them. So I think really, and the conversations that are had on the mountain are, they are so raw, they are so
Yeah.
vulnerable. Um, Being able to sit in a space and hear from someone's own lips their lived experience, I truly think it changes a person. It broadens, I hope, it broadens their perspective and shows them that, there are other folks whose paths are similar to theirs or maybe differ from theirs. But at the end of the day, we all have some commonalities. There is this common humanity that we're able to tap into. And I think that is what makes AnyTown so transformative and so special from other camps.
Yes, 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 yes. And we're going to talk a little bit about your human design toward the end because
Yeah.
you're made for any town.
Oh,
I mean, obviously you know this, but to be continued there. I want to ask a very practical, real conversation that I think will translate to the world we're living in. So, obviously, when we have conversations that are hard, we bring our humanity and we have varying levels of regulation when our humanity shows up. How do you handle that with people who literally have developing brains and are
yeah.
coming from different backgrounds with different emotional regulation, having these really mature, hard conversations? How is that supported and what tools are there so that it becomes something powerful and not stuckness?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, and I'm very glad you asked. A lot of that goes into our staff training. We're very intentional about the way that we train and prepare our staff. It is also essential that we have mental health practitioners on the mountain with us. We know that we're not the experts, so we want to have experts on the mountain and accessible for our students, our delegates, shall I call them. With our counselors and advisors, we give them training on truly how different emotions may present themselves. We know that not everyone is going to arrive at the end point at the same pace. We also know that, understanding for one person and processing may look very different for another delegate. Some may present in a way that shows that maybe they're uninterested or maybe they're disengaged when really they could be wrestling with this big concept and that maybe shook their core or rocked their world. I do not know. But again, we are very intentional in the way that we train our staff. And then again, we have mental health professionals on the mountain who are trained to deal with this and to help folks regulate themselves when we're having these hard conversations. We also bake a debrief into everything that we do. So after having these conversations, we take a moment to recenter, to ground ourselves and come back in the space. We never want a student to walk away with unresolved feelings. We really want that debrief to be a space where we can all kind of collectively take a breath and ground ourselves and center ourselves again.
Yeah. So what do you hear the delegates say at the beginning of the week versus at the end of the week?
Oh, yes. They're singing a different tune by the end of the week, which is wonderful. Typically toward the beginning of the week, we are met with a lot of resistance. Anytown is very high energy. We are singing songs, we are chanting, we're holding hands and spinning in a circle. We're doing all the things. Teens are shy, of course. They want to maintain their reputation. They want to act too cool for school. So again, we're met with some resistance, and a lot of them are like, ugh, my parent made me come, or I miss my cell phone, or I don't know anyone. I don't really want to be here. By the end of the week, they're crying in their cabins, saying that they've made the best friends ever and that they don't want to leave. A lot of them express how much they've grown in that week and how they see the world in a different way. We have so many young people who go on to make changes in their school after attending AnyTown. We had one young person who organized a walkout for gun violence at their school. So truly, by the end of the week, we're we are met with a lot of tears, a lot of gratitude as well. And the students really are, it is amazing. The 180, 360, whatever you want to call it, that happens at the end of the week.
Yeah. As I was listening to that, it occurred to me when I went a million years ago, um, there weren't cell phones. There wasn't the internet. I mean, like I didn't have access to the internet. So there wasn't such a shift in the unplugging and presencing. And I'm so curious, just to be clear, like they're not allowed their cell phones for the whole week?
No, they are not.
I love that. And so, do you also watch a bit of the sort of dopamine detox at the beginning of the week? Do they get grumpy? Because when I was
Yes.
doing child and family therapy and coaching, I would tell the parents, listen, it's going to get worse before it gets better because they're literally addicted to the dopamine response of that little computer. And after, you'll start to feel your kid coming back because
Mhm.
they're back. They're not in that box. And I don't think technology is inherently bad, but I think our relationship with it is pretty immature a lot of times. So, what do you think that role is with them kind of seeing each other and maybe themselves without that technology? I'm just genuinely curious about that.
Yeah, so that is something that us as a staff, we've kind of talked about. We're noticing now more than ever that students not being allowed to have their cell phones with them. And I do want to make it very clear, they always have access to a camp phone
Of
to
course.
call home if needed.
Yeah.
But we do not allow them to bring their personal cell phones. That one, it is like a safety issue. If someone is recording in a cabin that is meant to be a protected space. And two, we want them to disconnect for the week. That is the whole point. That's why we're taking them 2 hours away from home in the mountains. What could be a more perfect setting? So yes, we do see students who are maybe unhappy, shall I say, toward the beginning of the week because they miss their phone. But truly, by the end of it, a lot of them are expressing that they're grateful for the break from their phone. They're saying, "Oh, I didn't know how much I needed it," or I didn't realize that I could actually sit and have a conversation with someone." Because how often do we sit and talk to people now? Yes, it is definitely still a challenge that we are working against because of how inundated we are with technology and how it is truly, like you said, addicting. But we do find that there is good re whoever came up with this rule, it's a good one, and I think we're going to continue to keep it.
Yeah. Well, and as we have this conversation, I keep thinking, and I know this is the whole point, so I'm stating the obvious, but any town is a microcosm and it's a representation of the larger ecosystem we're in, and that's what it's meant to be, right? But so there's the conversations and the simulations, but there's also just more intentional connection. And it's a really weird time we're living in where technology allows us to be so connected and also feel deeply alone because our biology doesn't feel connected in the same way that we do when we're sitting with somebody, when we're watching their body language, when we're feeling those kind of mirror neurons do their thing with another human. So it's really beautiful that they're having that opportunity. My son went to a camp several years and he wasn't allowed to have his phone. And every time all, him and his friends would be like, somebody's going to manage my Snapchat while I'm gone or whatever. And I lovingly eye roll and try not to show it, but at the end, every single time, similar. I feel so much better. I feel so much. It was so great. It was nice to have a break. So it's this really interesting dance we do with connection and presence and how to figure that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's get personal. We've talked all about the AnyTown and the NCCJ of it all. How did you find yourself on this path? How did this is clearly a deep sense of purpose and clearly after pulling your human design chart, very aligned with your design. How did you find your way?
Yeah, it was a journey, shall I say. I've always known that whatever I wanted to do, it would be people-centered. I just didn't know what that work would look like. My undergraduate degrees are in psychology and sociology, and then I went on to get a master's in human development and family studies.
Ooh,
For a while, I know.
that's so rich. I'm like, I
Yes.
want one of those too.
For a while, I thought that I wanted to go into research. I have always been very interested in trauma and the way that it impacts us over the life course, specifically Black and Brown youth. I didn't know how I wanted to get into the work. I teetered around with the thought of becoming a clinician for a while, but I'm like, I don't know. I thought about being a school psychologist, but I'm like, that's mainly testing and evaluation. I want to work with the youth. How do I work with the youth? And it was through interning with various nonprofits that I realized that nonprofit work is where it's at for me, at least. I Right out of grad school, I worked at a makerspace actually, and I worked on a federally funded research project where I got to run a program just for Black girls. Had a STEM focus, and we were talking about designing and making in a way that was meaningful in our lives. It was chef's kiss. It was beautiful. It was so rewarding. And then I kind of found NCCJ. They landed into my lap. I'm not from Greensboro, so I was not familiar with them before I was searching for a job. But it truly seemed like they checked all the boxes. Um, I I try to be humble. I don't want to say that like I was made for this or it was a perfect fit, but it
Don't be
truly
humble here,
felt
Imani. Don't be humble. We know your heart.
yes, it oh my goodness. I just reflect often on how grateful I am to be in this work because I cannot imagine anything more fulfilling that I could be doing. Do not get me wrong, it is hard work. We know that it is more than 40 hours a week, but watching the transformation in these students, watching them become so confident in themselves, watching them achieve their goals. Oh, it is one of the best feelings in the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I am going to go into your human design just for a moment.
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
So I heard that you are not familiar with human design, right? This is
I'm
totally
not.
new.
Yes,
So,
it's you.
yeah. So the idea is that this isn't a personality typing. This is not a label to box you in. This is a blueprint to affirm who you have always been, right? And in my mind, it's got a very spiritual tone in that like we need all of these little lights singing a chorus of purpose to
Mhm.
create the world we want to live in, right? So we all have all these different archetypal aspects that we're meant to bring to the collective, like a potluck kind of a thing. So there are different types and there are different aspects. I'm going to say some things that might sound like weird jargon. Don't stress. Don't stress about it. Just let whatever comes that resonates resonate. So your type is the manifesting generator type. There's five types. And it's we call it in our leadership work the accelerated builder. So the idea is you are here to bring inspiration into form and you have an ability to do it very fast and efficiently. So probably if your role was ever replaced, you it would take at least two people to do it. At least. That's the manifesting generator thing, right? But when you're aligned with your purpose, it doesn't feel like work. Like you are in, it's almost like people who, are ultra runners or something. I don't get it, but they love it. And I think running 100 miles, that sounds awful, but to them, it's enlivening. So for somebody with your design, your type, these long hours, if you were working for like data entry, it would suck your energy dry. But because you're so aligned with your purpose, there's this kind of rechargeable battery aspect to it, and it's good tired at the end of the day. And a generator or a manifesting generator, they want to use up their energy by the end of the day. That's how you'll be able to sleep. is by, like if you're just sitting around binging Netflix or something all day, it's probably hard to sleep for most
Yeah.
generator types because you haven't used your energy. So there's that. Also, your emotion, you are here to be wise based on what your gut says, but also your emotional wisdom. So you have what's called emotional authority. So you you feel your way to clarity. And I heard that in the story. I like your heart was really driving this. How things felt was really driving your alignment. Um your There's things called profile numbers, again, jargon, but they basically are the things that color the essence of your archetypal journey, your soul school, I like to call it. And your numbers are 1 3. And you kind of nodded to this because the one line is the one that wants to know everything about everything. So the one line loves to have information. They love to forage
Yes.
for new research, new perspectives. A one line can take a lot of courses and get a lot of degrees. And the challenge is sometimes the one line can feel like they don't know enough to move forward. Whereas the sort of empowered expression of that is learning for the sake of learning, the joy of learning. But once it starts holding one back and there's a not enoughness, that's sort of the red flag to watch for. Your other number is the 3 line, which is the mad scientist or the experimenter. Like you kind of have to just mess around and find out. You have to try different roles. You have to try different approaches and savor it to see what you like. And so there it's a in our book we talk about the nonlinear life. The 3 line is built to have a nonlinear path. Like I did this and then I did this and then I did this and I didn't really like this so I did this, right? So there's this really forgiving aspect to that.
Mm.
Okay, those are the foundational things, but here's what I really wanted to tell you, Imani. So there's 64 what's called gates, and they're archetypal themes. And they show up all over the chart. And if you ever look at a chart, it looks wild. It looks like something that's very hard to understand, which is why people don't go into it. I had the same thing. I looked at it and I was like, ugh. But anyway, if you know where to look, there's some really cool information. And I was drawn to your Mercury gate. We're having this conversation, and Mercury is the gate that shows us like what we're here to say, what we're here to communicate to the collective for the highest good. And yours is gate 59. And I know this gate because it shows up somewhere else in my chart, and it is the gate of intimacy and bonding. So it's the gate that says, I'm going to share what's real for me emotionally, even when it's scary, even when um, somebody reacts. And so there's all these like channels, and you think about it like electrical channels. And the other side of the channel of 59, I'm seeing it in my mind. If you're watching this on video, you're seeing me do the channel. So you have half of it. You have the 59 half. The other half is gate 6, which often is about emotional reactivity. So it's this weird nuanced dance between like I want to connect and share my heart and share what's real, and then experiencing the world's pushback on that, and experiencing and drawing people because there's an electromagnetic aspect of like those of us that have that half gate of 59 often draw people who are going to react to our truth. And here you are doing this sacred work in the world saying you can say the thing, people can have a reaction. And that's actually how we connect. That's actually how it makes me emotional. That's actually how we build the world we want, is by holding space for all of that and not just making it a, well, I'll say my truth as long as I know it's okay and nobody's going to have any thoughts about it and nobody's going to have any feels about it. Like that's what you're here to speak and express into the world, and you're doing it. And I just want to celebrate that. It's so beautiful to just witness someone's design because I haven't known you before this, and to pull your chart and be like, oh, okay, right, got it. They're doing it. So how does all that land? I know that's a lot of information and there's a lot more, but that's like what I could condense it down to.
Yeah, I took notes because I need to go read more on this. It makes me emotional hearing this. I I could get emotional. I probably will get emotional. That's what we're here to
Yeah,
do. We're
that's what
here to
we do.
be
Yeah.
real. We're here to be real. Just knowing that I am living into my purpose is very fulfilling to me. I am someone who wants to make a lasting impact. I am someone who wants to change lives, even if I only change one. One is enough. So hearing all of that from you is so affirming in ways that I did not know I needed, but I do think I needed this. Oh, wow.
Mm.
Ugh, thank you. That was beautiful. Like I said, I took notes and I need to go learn more about human design.
Well, we can connect after this call and I can offer some help and support there. But I this is why I wanted to bring human design to these conversations because not because I'm trying to flex my human design knowledge, but because that was my experience when I learned mine. And that's what I see with clients is it's not telling us anything we don't know a lot of the time, but it's based in birth information. Nobody like you can't say it was subjective. It's just kind of a quantum blueprint and to feel seen by life is what it felt like for me when I learned. I was like, right, I am meant to do that. I am meant to be that. And I can forgive my judgments on myself because it's just my design. Like, the one line and the three line stuff. Like I'm meant to fail forward in a lot of ways, right? I have the six line, which is basically like three line, three line, three line until I'm 50 and then. So I'm glad it landed and I hope it feels like I don't know, like a cosmic high five, like the
Yes.
universe being like, yes, keep it up, go do it. Because the world needs the yous of the world doing this right now, and it's my joy to offer anything that feels supportive in that. Yeah. So, what is your imaginal wish for the world? I like to ask this
Mm.
question to my guests just because I think there's power in what we speak and what we claim and what we say. And there are people who are going to be listening to this who get to like amplify it. What do you want to see? Well, actually, I want to make it a little selfish at first for you. What do you want? What's your imaginal wish for yourself and your path?
Mhm.
And then what's your imaginal wish for that more collective space? And it can be anything.
Yeah, I think, of course, they're work related. Something that I have been thinking and reflecting on. I will share that I am someone who deals with a lot of mental illness. And I've been thinking, what would my life be like if, I don't want to say if I wasn't plagued by mental illness, but if I didn't have the anxiety that I do, if I didn't have the fears that I do. And I think a wish for myself, I want to see myself in leadership.
Mm.
In some ways I already am there, but I one day, not today, I want to lead an organization, whether that be NCCJ or another. Um, that is something that I truly want for myself. And what I want for others, it is very similar. I want the youth that we serve to be able to see themselves in us. I am someone that believes what you see is what you can be, and I want these youth to have positive role models. I want them to see Black and brown people that look like them in leadership doing amazing things and think that and they can do it too. That is really what I want. I want the youth to be inspired, um, to achieve something beyond their wildest dreams. Yeah, I could go on, but I think those are the two things.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful when I have these conversations and there's this very clear connection of the dream I hold for myself is the gift I wish for others. And I think that to me, in my world, that is the definition of embodied leadership. That is like I'm gonna be it to the essence of it to the best of my ability because then it's almost like a room diffuser. It's just
Mhm.
it's more available in that collective space. And um I don't know about you, but as somebody who has been in activist spaces conversations for a long time, I've seen a lot of activist types say they want something for other, but aren't giving it to themselves and aren't embodying it. And that's a really hard sell from that place, right? It's like, wait, there's this kind of cognitive disconnect that we can't really name when we feel that,
Mhm.
but when somebody's living it, oh my gosh, it feels so much more possible because you can taste it, you can feel it, you can like you get it. And I really witness you doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else we want to talk about? I'm not looking at your human design anymore because I will go down the rabbit hole big time. Okay, I do have one more question because this is
Yeah.
a space where we do talk about leadership, and I had the ick about the word leadership for a long time because I think the world had given me the idea that it had to have some inherent hierarchy and stuff, and it didn't feel good to me, like Yertle the turtle kind of vibes. And I'm curious how you define leadership because I've
Ooh,
redefined it. That's how I've reclaimed it.
yeah. That's a great question. So let me start by saying I don't buy into the hierarchy. One thing that I do appreciate at NCCJ, we have a fairly, what am I trying to say, horizontal
Hmm.
hierarchy, if you will. Um, how do I define leadership? Hmm. I think when I think of a leader, I think of someone who is, dare I say, emotionally intelligent. I think leaders need to be able to read the room and to interpret the needs of those around them. I see being in leadership as being of service to others. I, yeah, I think it is truly, I, when I lead from a place of what can I do for you? And that feels very important to me as far as leadership is concerned. I really think it is about what can you do for others? How can you help others achieve their goals? How can you help others see something in themselves that maybe they didn't see before? How can I position myself to uplift others? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I I did some leadership training years ago with CTI, the Coactive Training Institute, and it was a
Mhm.
really intense program. And one of the things that stuck with me was there was this, they kept using this phrase because it was all focused on co, right? It wasn't a leader. You always had a partner and you were always kind of sharing the space. And they said, the goal is to be the black velvet to someone else's diamond.
Mm.
And that to me is like, I want to be the best black velvet or I want to be the best diamond I can be, meaning most me, most authentic.
Mhm.
But within that, there's this the more I'm me, the more you shine.
Yes.
Or the more you're you, the more I get to shine and serve. And I think I hear that in what you're saying. And to me, that's how I've come to land with leadership is we don't need to be the same. We certainly don't need to perform leadership because that just feels gross and usually lends us to stories that we wouldn't choose anyway. But when we're us,
Mm.
there's this really cool something that happens in the spaces where we move, where it's a sense of others get that implied permission to be more them.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the kind of leader I intend to move as, and imperfect as I am, but like I watch it. And I'm very Leo. So I can have this kind of like fabulous hair flip presence. And I resisted that for a long time because I didn't want to stomp anybody's space, right? But I realized the more I'm my ridiculous self, my joyful, heart-centered self, people are more them. It's like a permission slip. It's not taking anything from anyone. So I think if anybody's listening, that's something to remember. You being
Yeah.
full you doesn't take anything away unless you're trying to take some shit away, right? Or unaware of your impact and not staying curious, because that's a big part of kind of my leadership path as well, is stay curious about the impact that you have no idea you're having, and be willing to have the conversations that help you understand. Okay, how can people support what you've got cooking in the world? Because there's going to be people that are like, Camp AnyTown? Oh my gosh, what? I don't even know. Adult programs? So how can they? There will
Yes.
be things in the show notes, but what do you want folks to know?
Yeah, get any way that you are looking to get involved, we welcome it. We are always looking for volunteers, whether it be volunteering to help with the youth or volunteering for like our annual citation award dinner. There's a lot of legwork that goes into preparing for a dinner for over 1,000 people, and we could not do anything without our volunteers. Our volunteers are the heart and soul of NCCJ. I can't say enough good things about our volunteers. The amount of hours and years that they dedicate to NCCJ is so inspiring. So yes, whether it be you're looking to get connected and volunteer, whether you want to participate in a program or just join our mailing list to stay up to date on all the things happening in our world. Um, I invite people to plug in whatever way feels most accessible for them.
Wonderful. Well, Amani, thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing to have this conversation and let me go down this very sweet, tender, nostalgic path of honoring something that's been so important that you are maintaining in the world. Your time,
Absolutely.
your commitment, your purpose, your impact is something that I just admire and celebrate and appreciate. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.